All right, what's up, everybody? It's Wes, Hank, and Andy. We're back. We are back. Wow.
Rotation.
We are back in the rotation, aren't we? Hey, we got people showing up already. We got Necroport over here on YouTube wanting to say hello.
What is
what's
up?
Necro, what's up, my friend? We are happening. It's been a busy week. I was pretty much head down most of the week writing this week's episode. I feel like there's a lot to talk about this week. And I hope you stick around for that, because we are going to get into the episode here just shortly. Before we do that, we should probably start off with another round of
bad Star Wars jokes.
Nice.
Andy, you got a joke for us this week?
I got one for you.
All right, because I slacked off, and that's the one thing I didn't get this week.
That's all.
Nice.
Why can't you count on Yoda to pick up your bar tab?
Well, I don't know.
Because he's always a little short.
A little short. Nothing about a green thumb in there at all.
That's for gardening.
Sarah's here, says hello. Hello, Sarah. Good to have you along for tonight's episode for the ride. I think we're in for a good one tonight. Did everybody get a chance to watch it at least once?
Yep.
Oh,
Did anybody take it in several viewings?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe a couple.
Oh, hello.
Yeah.
You know me.
How many times did you cry?
Do I have to admit
I
it?
didn't, but it was, I mean, we can wait till we get there. I don't think it was tears, but Lauren was definitely standing up screaming at the screen.
Oh, like a rabid sports fan, right?
Yeah. Don't you fly away, you son of a bitch.
I'm not gonna lie, man. I got a
Don't
little
you fly
teary.
away.
I got some teary on this one, and it hit me again. The weirdest part was the second time around when you're watching it doing episode prep, and it's like I knew it was coming, and I still I'm like, what is going on with me? TJC in the house. Hello, sir. How are you doing this evening? Glad to have you along.
And to answer Necro's question there, yeah, we're usually the trifecta of beards.
That's right. We are the three beards. Although we are always open to special guests.
Yeah.
So that's never going to be an issue. It's just nobody's really approached nobody's really asked the question. Mind you,
we've asked a few people.
We do. We have asked a few people to come on and join us, especially on our other we have another show that we do on Tuesday nights. If you haven't checked that one out, it's Random Fandom Tuesdays, where we talk about just random entertainment headlines that caught our attention through the course of the week. That will be coming up in 2 days time from now.
Yep.
But let's get to some Star Wars, shall we?
Star Wars on the docket.
Let me just switch this over here to presentation mode. Here we go. All right. Before we get into the episode this week, as always, I'd like to go through what I like to talk about, sort of the general impressions of the episode. If you want to talk about the title itself, a different approach, because these titles, they tend to have some overlaying meaning that sort of suggests to the larger story that's going on. Guys, what did you think of this week's episode?
Quite enjoyed it. Some people are saying that maybe it happened too soon.
The reunion, you mean?
But I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either.
No, it's a good setup, because something worse. They got to resolve this so something worse can happen. I mean,
yeah. The entire empire is now coming after them, right? So
yeah, I mean, when Palpatine said, "You shall have the full might," or every resource of the empire at your disposal, that's freaking huge.
That's nothing to sneeze at.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Different approach. Cool title. I like the fact that we have compromise from both of our principal characters this week, that they both have to sort of navigate the other's isms, and they both have to deal with their own thoughts and feelings about that as they go.
Yeah.
And it works out better than maybe I thought it would.
Mm-hmm.
Good to see Crosshair actually make a conscious effort to try and curb his natural tendencies, if I can call it that.
So anyway, I started blasting.
That's right. His murder now, talk later.
Now it was nice to see him them paired together, and like it said before, watching them bond, it doesn't bode well. Like,
No.
If you're going to get as dark as we might get, there's still that, where are these characters in the timelines we're familiar with, and they aren't around, so we know that like there's probably an end game.
We have a whole lot of new live action Star Wars that hasn't even hinted that these characters their fates, or even if they're around or anything. Hopefully they're off in some quiet neck of the galaxy living a quiet life like Zeb's people or something, right? Who knows? All right, let's get into it. It is Star Wars The Bad Batch. It is season 3, episode 4. This one is called A Different Approach. The original air date was, of course, this past Wednesday, February 28th in the year 2024. This one is written by Ezra Nachman, who wrote season 2, episode 7, The Clone Conspiracy. That's the one where Senator Chuchi tries to advocate for the decommissioned clones. Interesting thing, I don't know if we've mentioned this before, he also wrote 40 of the 62 episodes of the supernatural drama Manifest, of which nearly half of those were uncredited because at the time he was just a staff writer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but he did, in fact, write the entire 4th and final season. That's the one that got picked up by Netflix to finish the series off, where he also happened to serve as the series story editor.
Nice.
This one is directed by Saul Ruiz. We have an advertised runtime of 28 minutes, or an actual runtime of 23 minutes and 55 seconds without credits or titles. Our episode synopsis this week reads: stranded in dangerous territory, Omega and Crosshair must work together. All right, let's get into it. Okay, our episode picks up just a short time after the events of episode 3. Barreling through hyperspace, Omega and Crosshair struggled to keep their commandeered Rho-class shuttle afloat. One of the engines was hit by blaster fire when they made their escape from Wayland, and smoke is now trailing from the smoldering remains. In the cockpit, Omega shouts to Crosshair for some help. Down below, Crosshair studies a readout of the ship's damaged systems before he rushes to the cockpit and jumps into the rear seat. He shouts to Omega to get the stabilizers online, but it's no use. Sparks erupt from Omega's console, and the shuttle drops out of hyperspace over a gray, cloudy planet. Crosshair says that they have to land, but with the controls failing and the shuttle rolling as it enters the atmosphere, it's questionable if they can land at all. Get a little bit of Orbesh in the opening sequence here. We get a caution warning on the screen.
That's a nice crowd. That's pretty blurry.
A power. I had to blow that up a lot.
Well done, sir.
Yeah, I had to sort of fill in the. You kind of look at shapes after a while and kind of go, well, that kind of looks like that letter.
Yeah.
I mean, you get the C and the T and the IO. The ION came pretty easily, actually. But yeah, so it's caution, and power. Double caution. So it must be
Very
must be really cautious. All right. As the shuttle succumbs to the planet's gravity, Omega pulls hard on the control yoke, desperately trying to level out. The gravity prevails, and the ship falls ever closer towards several enormous icy peaks that resemble the scales of a reptile's back. Luckily, Omega manages to belly land the shuttle and slides it into an open section of tundra between 2 rows of ice. Once the ship settles, she pops the canopy to vent the smoky air from the cockpit, and instantly we can see both of our characters' warm breaths on the cold air, so we know this is not a friendly place.
First time I watched it, I watched it on my phone.
Oh, sure.
May or not have been at work, but I thought that was Mandalore.
Yeah.
Like,
It's funny that you mentioned that. I got, I meant to put a reference in there how it did look like the glass.
Yeah.
Who's to say that the Empire
Probably
didn't do
early
that
for that,
too,
though,
right?
eh?
Yeah, I would think it would be. Yeah, what was
A
that?
little
Andy?
early for that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because the Night of a Thousand Tears
Doesn't
wasn't
happen till a
until
while later
yeah.
because they don't really test it out until Rogue One.
No, that's right. Yeah. Excuse me.
But great detail though, just the breath.
I thought it was
Well, it's
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Crosshair rubs the back of his neck and he sighs as he gathers his wits about him, while Batcher barks and nudges at the back of his seat. Taking a look at the display in front of him, Crosshair spots a settlement with a spaceport. It's not too far away from the shuttle, just before power cuts out, rendering all ship systems inoperable. Omega sighs in frustration as her display cuts out as well. She remarks that repairs will take a long time, but as Crosshair points out, it's time they don't have. Omega insists that they need to get the ship's navigation system back online in order to extract the coordinates of Mount Tantus, so they can go back and free other prisoners. But Crosshair points out that the Empire will come looking for the shuttle. They need to move. He gathers a backpack, and he stuffs it with 2 blasters before he, Omega, and Batcher jump down onto the frozen tundra. His breath thick on the air, Crosshair tells Omega that he scanned a spaceport just a few clicks east of where they are now, and they should start there. And then the 3 of them head out.
Again, though, she's got that no man left behind, right?
She's
clinging.
yeah.
To that.
Yeah. It's kind of falls on that not everybody is your ally, but
Yeah.
in her
Yeah.
mind, kind of, well, yeah, they are.
Well, even the
Yeah.
villain, even the villain says it's the idealism of a child,
Oh yeah,
right?
That's
That's
right.
the central theme. Still, hope is all comes down to that.
yeah. That was a comment from Hemlock, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah. Talk about Hemlock. I'm going to come back to him later on because I said something errantly last week, and I'm going to correct that when we get there, but it'll come a little bit later in the show when it's a little more organic to what we're talking about tonight.
Cool.
Well, back at Mount Tantus, Dr. Hemlock, escorted by clone commando Scorch, enter the detention block, stopping at a cell occupied by the Kaminoan cloner Nala Se. Scorch places a data pad into a slot on the wall opening of the cell. Hemlock enters while wringing that gloved hand. God damn it, what's under there?
I was watching another movie there,
Yeah.
and another villain comes in, and again, he's doing that stupid thing.
It could be a nervous twitch,
I think it might just be
but the
But
glove,
it's a hand.
I believe
the glove.
that is a hand.
There's something going on.
Well, there's a couple theories. One is that, typical Star Wars, people lose hands. They tend to get cybernetic replacements.
Yeah.
We've seen that, of course, Vader, Luke, and others.
Yeah, but that
But-
would cause feeling.
But
Whereas
remember,
a mutated hand might.
remember what we saw from him last season at the end of the season finale of season 2, when Crosshair was trying to send that message out.
And poison the place, and he is
Right, and
completely
he's
unaffected.
immune, and he walks in the room like it's
Yeah.
nothing, right? So
Maybe it's that
I-
big radar dish attachment that Echo has with the toy.
the one that we
Finally.
still have yet to figure out what the hell that is. But I'm in that camp. I think that Hemlock may be partially experimenting on himself when it suits him, and whatever is under that glove is a result of something he's done to himself.
Yeah.
That's my guess. All right. So, opens the, wait a second. What are we talking about? Places a data pad in the slot on the wall, opening the cell, and Hemlock enters wringing the gloved hand. He tells the cloner that Omega and CT-9904 were able to escape the mountain fortress and flee from Wayland. Nala Se calls the news surprising. Hemlock retorts, is it? He says he never understood her attachment to Omega, but it's clear now why she kept her so close. He calls it suspicious that none of the blood samples obtained by Nala Se yielded any results, but just one sample tested by Emery indicated a positive M count transfer result. Nala Se suggests that false positives are to be expected. Ever the scientist, she jumps right to, it's a false positive.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But the other thing is, she was deleting records. So how
Yeah,
are
oh,
there
yeah.
any other tests?
Yeah,
on
yeah, yeah,
file?
yeah. Well, it's only a matter of time before they look at that, right?
Yeah.
Or we could just call that Ploticus holicus,
There you go.
All right,
Empty
she
your
said-
junk folder.
That's right. She suggests that false positives are to be expected. And in an effort to downplay her attachment to Omega, Nala Se goes so far as to say that Omega's test results are as much of an aberration as she is. Wow. Unblinking, Hemlock tells Nala Se, "We shall see," adding that once Omega is back within the fortress, her test results will be verified, but her future is less certain. Hemlock leaves the cell, and after the door slides shut, Nala Se droops her head toward the floor and silently blinks. She contemplates what just happened. I want to talk about Scorch for a little bit. We've talked about Scorch before, but we got some new information this week on Scorch. I don't know if you guys noticed that. If you were paying attention, you might have picked up on it. Let's just do a little history on the character here. Now, Scorch originally appeared in the 2005 video game Star Wars Republic Commando. It's a fantastic game. It still plays quite well. Well, then he and the remainder of Delta Squad, they were canonized in the Clone Wars episode, season 3, episode 14, Witches of the Mist. Now, that's January of 2011. At that time, you can sort of see here, I've added some extra information here. In Republic Commando, the character was voiced by Raphael Savarge. And then in, sorry, I just went too far.
Oops. In
the Clone Wars episode, he doesn't even get credited at all. It's just
another clone
troopers, right? And that's an interesting thing because in where is it here? In July 2021, in the season 1 episode of The Bad Batch, War Mantle, a Republic commando bearing similar markings to Scorch shows up on screen, but was never identified in the credits. Now we thought, like, I think, you know, if you go back and watch our episode, we're like, that's Scorch.
For sure.
It has to be.
It has to be.
Now, at the time, David Collins, who worked on the show, tweeted out that in the episode, he actually reused the original blaster effect from Republic Commando,
right?
Cementing the link that, yes, this is in fact Scorch, which I thought was kind of cool. Yeah. I have that actually from the video game, by the way.
Your gun's jammed.
Yeah. So so they reused that for the episode. Now, fast forward again into season 2, episode 10, Metamorphosis. And indeed, yes, he's now finally credited as Scorch. Then skip ahead to this week's episode, and looky, Scorch got a promotion, and he is now Commander Scorch.
Moving up the ranks.
So I thought that was kind of cool. There you go. Everything you wanted to know about Scorch, but didn't really care. Or maybe you did care, and now you do know. Well, with a traditional Star Wars style wipe, we transition to an aerial shot of the settlement that Crosshair had noted just before the ship's power cut out. Now, the small city is built into an open area of tundra between the icy peaks. Dirt roads weave around the small structures, the largest of which look to be 2 round docking bays on either side of the city. Several ships of varying sizes flit about, while down at street level, Omega and Crosshair carefully make their way into the city center. Well, the city's population is a cornucopia of common Star Wars alien species, and it seems like there are stormtroopers on every corner. But these troopers are not clad in the pristine white armor like they are on Wayland or Coruscant. No, these troopers are dirty, and many of them have augmented their armor with additional cold weather cloaks and wind goggles. I think they kind of give off a vibe somewhere between the Swamp Trooper and the Wet Weather Stormtroopers that we saw back in Solo.
Yeah, the Mimban style.
Yeah, the Mimban stuff. Yeah.
I mean, I'll do anything for another variant.
What's that? Another Stormtrooper with a different
1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 different variants, like just off camera, right there.
I think every live action Star Wars we've gotten has added a new variation of Trooper.
But that original Macquarie style helmet, coupled with the trench coat and the goggles, man,
it's cool.
Hasbro.
It's very cool.
Are you listening, Hasbro?
Oh, they did that. They did the Mimban Trooper.
No, but the from this and all the trench coats. Version,
the TK Troopers.
Watched this episode a lot of times, and just watching the different trench coats. Like, they're not all uniform. Like, they're different. Like, some are dusters, some are ponchos.
Yeah, they look that way, don't they?
Yeah, they're wicked.
Well, Crosshair and Omega press themselves against a pillar as 2 troopers approach them. Omega is surprised to see them say that the Empire She is surprised to see them, and she says that the Empire couldn't have followed them here that quickly. Crosshair points out, well, they didn't. And these troopers are part of a standard patrol presence. Omega suggests they find a way to get a message to Hunter and Wrecker. Crosshair says they can't because the Empire monitors long-range communications, and any transmission would just give them away, so they'll have to figure out something else. As the troopers pass, Crosshair steps out from behind the pillar, but Omega grabs a hold of him, telling him to wait, because they can't walk around dressed like they are. With her in her Imperial Science Corps uniform.
And him in a prison uniform.
Yeah, and Crosshair in his prisoner coveralls, there's little chance of blending in with the locals. And as Crosshair points out, walking around with a giant hound isn't exactly inconspicuous. Well, patting Batcher's prominent snout horn, Omega tells her not to listen to Crosshair before the two of them dash off into the market square ahead. Omega spots some clothes hanging on a line, and she appropriates them along with a small leather satchel. Well, a short time later, the three of them emerge from an alley, the alley now dressed in plain clothes, similar to that of the locals. Both of their outfits are quilted in a similar manner as the rebel soldier uniforms on Hoth. And their outfits are complete with warm boots, gloves, and headgear. Crosshair wears a scarf to cover his face, and along with his hat pulled low, manages to conceal most of his distinctive eye tattoo. More stormtroopers pass by, ignoring them, and then the sound of a shuttle passing by overhead catches the clone's attention. Turning to Omega, Crosshair says, "New plan. If they can get to the spaceport, they can sneak onto one of the shuttles." Omega nods, and the three of them head off in the direction of the passing shuttle. As the camera lifts up over the buildings to follow the shuttle, the spaceport is nowhere in sight, and we know it's going to be a long walk through dangerous enemy-occupied territory.
Did you catch Walrus Man walking about too?
I was looking for him. Did you see him?
He is
okay.
there. He ducks in behind a bunch of crates.
There were just so many common Star Wars species. I didn't really want to go and revisit all. Like,
yeah,
mind you, if it had been the guy in the Walrus Man, the orange and blue,
orange with blue pants.
Yeah, I should have just to say there he is again.
Yeah, he's
Wicked.
everywhere. He's everywhere.
Walrus Man sighting.
I want to talk about the shuttle for a minute because now it's not a new class of shuttle by any means, but seeing it here in this episode, this makes it the earliest canonical appearance. Even though it was canonized in Rebels, this means it was in service that much earlier. This is the, what do we call this? It is the Star Commuter 2000. Now that ship is based off of the Star Speeder 3000. And if you don't know what that is the ship that was the old Star Tours ride at Disney theme parks. The Star Tours 3000. Now, while the Star Commuter first appeared canonically, as I said, back in Star Wars Rebels, its appearance here in the Bad Batch make this its first chronological appearance. And the ship has some longevity because 53 years later, during the events of Star Wars Resistance, the shuttle is still in use. But it gets better. And I thought was pretty cool. You know how much I love ships.
Yeah.
So how many times have you guys watched the sequel trilogy?
A couple times.
Yeah.
Probably less than all the other films.
Maybe.
I mean, definitely.
Yeah.
So if you missed this detail, which I did, I wouldn't be surprised. But here's a very cool full circle moment. So the Star Speeder 3000 was digitally rendered and renamed the Star Speeder 1000. That digital model was used as a background ship at the Nema outpost in The Force Awakens.
Oh, jeez.
It also shows up again as part of the Citizen Fleet in The Rise of Skywalker, although it was cut from the final edit.
Oh, is it really cut?
It is cut from the final edit. I went and I watched I watched that sequence of footage, and they cut to the part where Wedge says, "Nice flying, Lando," which is exactly when that ship would make an appearance. But you can see it in the digital rendering here on this tweet. By the way, Jean-Denis Hans was a former animator at ILM, worked on the film. This is a shot that he worked on.
Nice.
But yeah, so thanks for that tweet. That's some cool stuff. Cool little ship moments. So now we actually have two canonical shuttles based on the Star Tours ride in the franchise now. Pretty cool stuff.
Wicked.
All right. When Omega and Crosshair reach the starport, it is immediately evident that sneaking onto the shuttle will not be easy. The entire building is swarming with stormtroopers, many of whom are keeping a keen eye on the ticketing agent. Crosshair posits that he could take out at least half of them before they knew it was happening. Excuse me. But Omega suggests that they try something that doesn't involve blasters. When Crosshair...
There's your title coming back around. Let's
Yeah.
try a different approach.
Something different.
Mhm.
Yeah. When Crosshair asks, like what? Omega looks at the ticketing agent and answers, watch and learn. And then she walks up to the kiosk. I love that, that amount of confidence from her to say, hey, you're going to learn something.
I picked this up from Rika.
Yeah,
Sort of lucky it's a civilian ticket agent too. You know,
I think so. Yeah.
the same
absolutely.
scene in Solo goes sort of different.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it does. Omega asks the agent for 2 tickets. Now, oddly enough, she doesn't even care, doesn't ask where the shuttle might be going.
Nope.
Um,
Nope.
But it doesn't matter because the ticket agent asks for chain codes that neither one of them have. Omega tells the agent they lost their chain codes. And in a modulated voice, the ticket agent replies, no chain codes, no passage. Crosshair watches with little to no confidence that this will actually work, while Omega slides up just a little closer to the kiosk so as not to be overheard. Rubbing her thumb and forefinger together, she suggests to the agent that their problem could be an opportunity for her if she knew of a way they could book passage without a chain code. Leaning down in the kiosk on her folded arms, the ticket agent looks around before asking if she's suggesting that she should take a bribe. Coyly, Omega answers, if that's what you want to call it. And the ticket agent does, but she also quietly tells Omega that it can be arranged, but only for a non-negotiable 15,000 credits per ticket. The ticket agent tells Omega she's lucky that she's not charging extra for the Hound. When Omega asks her where she expects them to come up with 30,000 credits, the ticket agent stands up and folds her arms as she says, that sounds like a you problem. Shooing her away with a wave of her hand, she tells Omega not to come back without the credits. Crosshair shakes his head as the three of them turn to walk away, adding, well, that went well. Sharply, Omega retorts, stow it. Somewhere else in the city, down a dark alley, a young boy covered from head to toe in rags is trying to sell something called the Kachu Kachu fruit. He calls out half price, but no one seems interested. So the boy returns to his nearby makeshift stand. Now, the Kachu Kachu must be from the same family as the Meilu run because they used the exact same animation model.
Mm-hmm.
Could be just called something different on that planet.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. As Crosshair and Omega enter the same alley, the older clone says that storming the spaceport would have been easier than coming up with 30,000. But Omega says she doesn't want to hurt anyone. Stopping just in front of the boys' fruit stand, Crosshair tells Omega not to be naive, that every second they spend on this planet puts them at risk of being picked up by the Empire. And Omega fires back to quit wasting time. Well, just then, a nearby door slides open and light and music spill out into the alleyway as 2 stormtroopers walk out of a tavern. One of the troopers tosses a shiny Imperial credit in the air before catching it again, and the 2 of them head off down the alley. Looking up at Crosshair, Omega tells him she thinks she knows how they can make some fast credits. The 2 of them head into the tavern, neither of them aware that the boy has been watching and listening the whole time. This whole credit thing, I'm going to come back to this sort of when we get through the bulk of this next scene, because there's an interesting analogy to be had here about what the Empire's doing.
Mm.
Inside the tavern, at the bar, a droid tends bar, while Omega and Crosshair watch an Aqualish and a Trandoshan play cards at a table in the center of the room. Now, derisively, Crosshair says to Omega, "That's your plan? You want to hustle someone?" She tells him that she prefers to call it a temporary requisition of funds, and that she's done it before. Crosshair is concerned that they have nothing to bet with, but Omega smiles and says, "They don't know that." Victorious over his opponent, the Trandoshan says, "I'll take those credits." And he sweeps them up in his hands and smells the money, inhaling deeply. With his fist full of credits, the Trandoshan looks around the room, beckoning, all right, who's next?
Nice.
Not even noticing Omega's diminutive form standing in front of him on the opposite side of the table. Only when she raises her hand and declares, I'll give it a try, does the Trandoshan look down and see her. Seeing the young human girl, he laughs out loud as he says, this shouldn't take long, then goes about shuffling the cards for a new hand. Folding his arms and settling back into his seat, Crosshair's eyes narrow as he watches the game unfold. Our bartender droid, that's Liam O'Brien. Now, he's an actor, writer, and director, primarily in animation and video games. Now, Liam is known for a number of anime projects, the longest of which was Naruto Shippuden, which ran from 2007 to 2017, where he played the English dub version of Gara. More recently, you may have recognized him as Vaxel Dan in all 24 episodes of the Prime Video series, The Legend of Vox Machina,
Nice.
a character that he created in the internet hit show Critical Role, where Liam has appeared in 359 episodes.
Nice.
That's what the internet can do, though.
Mm-hmm.
Our Trandoshan, well, that's another Critical Role veteran. This Trandoshan is credited as a chatty alien. It's Sam Riegel. He's known for playing Donatello in the 2003 iteration of TMNT for 153 episodes. Also a member of the adventuring company Vox Machina, where he plays Scanlan Shorthalt, another character developed on Critical Role, and Sam has appeared in 364 episodes.
Nice.
So just a few more than Liam. Now, Sam is also the voice of Ketch, as in Bolo and Ketch from Six Parlor. So
nice.
We've probably mentioned him before.
Probably.
I just thought it was worth bringing up again.
It's neat.
2 Critical Role guys on the same show at the same time. That's cool. Well, sometime after a few hands, Omega has managed to amass quite a stack of credits. Looking up at the Trandoshan, she asks, how about one more game? Adding that her luck has to run out eventually. Her opponent mumbles, that's true, but I get to deal this time. Omega just smiles and she slides the cards towards him. Then the tavern door opens and a portly Imperial officer walks in, flanked by 2 stormtroopers.
You don't see too many of those.
Officers?
Portly officers.
Portly officers, yeah. We've seen a couple.
But not too many.
No, not too many. The officer thumbs a shiny golden credit as he looks around the room. That's twice now we've seen an Imperial do that. Seeing the Imperials enter the tavern, Crosshair leans forward and clears his throat in an effort to get Omega's attention. Picking up on the signal, she shoots a sideways glance at the officer as he walks past on his way to the bar. At the bar, the droid pours the Captain Man, that's his identifies, Man, M-A-N-N, Captain Man.
Captain Man.
Pours Captain Man a drink. Now he turns to survey the room and remarks, business looks good today. The bartender droid tells him that a newcomer has pulled in quite a crowd, and Man says, then business should be good for me today. While at the same time, one of his stormtroopers places a credit case on the bar. Reaching under the bar, the droid tosses a handful of credits into the case, and while that's happening, we can hear Omega's Trandoshan opponent shout, not again! Then the camera shifts to the card table, where the very anxious Trandoshan raises a clawed finger and stammers, okay, one more game! Understanding that the outburst has brought more attention to the game than she wanted, Omega says she'll quit while she's ahead, and she reaches for her pile of credits. But then Captain Man is there. Leaving so soon? He sneers at the Trandoshan. You're in my seat. And the reptilian humanoid slithers off. Unsure of what's about to unfold, Crosshair leans forward in his seat, ready to stand, but Omega waves her hand at him to back down. Removing his headdress, Captain Man takes a seat at the card table. Folding his hands on the table, he looks down at Omega and asks if she thinks she's good at cards, and if she wants to try a real opponent. Unblinking, he stares at her. I insist. Well, Captain Man, that's Harry Lloyd. He's an English actor, most known for the BBC's Robin Hood, where he played Will Scarlet for 26 episodes. but you may recognize him from his appearance as Baines in the third season of the Doctor Who revival series back in 2007, or as Viserys Targaryen in season 3 of Game of Thrones. He did not meet a good end in that one. Oh, did I skip a thing? I did. Oh no.
No, you got it there.
Did I? Oh, sorry, you're right. I did. I was looking further down in my notes.
Don't go that far.
Yeah. Meanwhile, an Imperial ship on a standard patrol flies over the crash site of the stolen Row shuttle. The pilot points out that it looks like one of theirs, and the trooper behind him says they better check it out. Back in the tavern, Omega and Captain Man continue their game. Omega lays down a card while Man draws one from the deck. Thatcher, who has been quiet up to this point, snarls at the Imperial officer. Man remarks that the Hound doesn't seem to like him. Without making eye contact, Omega says she's harmless, but Man calls her a distraction and demands that she gets rid of her. Omega points at the door, and Crosshair gets up and leads Batcher out of the tavern. Captain Man glances over his shoulder at them before casually remarking to Omega that he's never seen her or her dad around here before. Her dad. I had a hard time not laughing at that.
Yep.
But it makes sense. It totally makes sense.
Same eyes.
Yeah. Laying a card down on the table, Omega says they're just passing through. Man smirks as he in turn lays down one of his cards. The crowd begins to chatter while some of them cheer for the officer. The bartender droid comments, "Looks like the captain is heading towards a victory." Leaning down on his arms, Captain Man admits that Omega is a pretty good card player, but she has underestimated her enemy. Omega studies her cards for a second before locking eyes with the captain and retorts, "Did I?" With a smirk, she lays down 3 symbol cards, one in each color of purple, red, and orange. The crowd erupts just as the droid points out that Omega has just played the 3 Eastern Stars, and the game is now over. Smiling at the captain, Omega says she'll take the 20,000 credits. Now, did you guys check out the episode guides for each episode when they come out?
Not always.
The episode guide this week was rife. It was a treasure trove of stuff, including what this new card game is.
It's not Sabak.
It is not Sabak, as was errantly pointed out by other reviewers. This is a new game. It's called Balans or Balans. Ballaans. Balans? Yeah. And if it's anything like Sabak, you can expect this one's going to get a merchandising tie-in here sooner or later.
Right.
Sooner or later.
It's a game you can actually play.
Yeah, you can buy Sabak cards at Galaxy's Edge, and I think they did a version for Target as well. It also tells us this week in the databank that this planet is actually named Lao, and that might be a reference to Lao Che from Indiana Jones, another Lucasfilm property, in which case that would be the second Lao Che reference in the Bad Batch.
Nice.
Well, makes sense because they had Club Obi-Wan, right?
No, absolutely. Now, the information from the databank says that the Balan deck consists of 5 red, 5 blue number cards, as well as face cards consisting of 2 destroy, 2 deflect, 2 bluff, 2 steal, and 4 block cards. It almost sounds like a Star Wars version of Uno. The game includes a near unbeatable hand called the 3 Eastern Stars, and a complete rule set was designed for the card game. The production team play tested a few rounds and confirmed that it is an addictive game. So, yeah, we're going to get this actual merchandise, I'm sure.
I do love this whole scene, how it does throw back to earlier episodes, like where in Sid's parlor, Omega's just learning
how to do stuff,
gambling and different games and whatnot. And like, okay, it's a skill she's
retained.
Now it's coming back around.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if it's not Dejaric, it was whatever else they were playing.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's a skill set that the other guys don't have.
Just don't have. Yeah.
Yeah, because she's picking up. That's why she's been paired with all these interesting and weird characters. Bounty hunters and
yeah. Excuse me.
Yeah.
One of the stormtroopers approaches the table, but Captain Man raises his hand to signal the trooper to pause. With a smile, a man concedes, saying that Omega has won fair and square, and he slides the credits across the table, adding them to Omega's already sizable pile. The captain tells her, "Nicely played," as he gets up from the table. Omega thanks him, and she slides the pile of credits off the table into the leather satchel. Then, getting up from the table, she joins Crosshair, and they begin to head out. At the same time, one of the stormtroopers alerts the captain that a patrol has come across a crashed Imperial ship on the outskirts of town. The captain is puzzled, saying that he wasn't aware of any ships arriving today. As Omega and Crosshair make for the door, Man points a finger at them and says to wait. They're not done yet. With a sinister laugh, he tells Omega that she hasn't paid her fine. When she asks him what fine, the captain tells her that gambling is illegal here. Crosshair hisses, "What?" And he steps towards the Imperial captain, but Omega grabs him, stopping him. Captain Man says the law is the law, and the fine is 10,000 credits unless she'd rather be arrested. And without a word, Omega reaches into the satchel and she hands the money over to the stormtrooper with the credit case. Tipping his hat to her, Man tells her to consider the fine paid in full, adding, "Try and stay out of trouble." Then he and the stormtroopers exit the tavern, while the room, which has now gone silent, all just watch. Frustrated, Omega says, "Let's get out of here." But Crosshair stops her, asking, "How many credits do we have left?" Opening the satchel, she rummages through the credits, and she tells him they have 35,000, which is enough for 2 shuttle tickets with a little extra left over. Now, I want to go back and talk about this. We saw this in earlier stuff, especially back in Andor. We're talking, it's literally just a couple of months after the execution of Order 66, and remotely posted officers like Captain Man and Tigo and Commandant J-Hold are already building their own little empires on these remote backwater worlds.
Little fiefdoms.
Yes, exactly. That stormtrooper walking out, the first thing I said when I saw the trooper walking out flipping the coin was, they're running a protection racket.
Yeah.
The stormtroopers, like, even down at the rank and file troop level, they're doing that. And of course, that has to be influenced by Man, because Man makes no attempt to even conceal that he's even doing it. He's got the stormtroopers holding the money for him.
Yeah, just walks up, throws the case down. It's like, all right, time for your payment.
There's a bigger thing to be said here, because that lack or that erosion of discipline within a military, it's pervasive and it will spread through the rank. And it makes you wonder if this type of activity or these attitudes played a role in the early successes of the nascent Rebel Alliance, because the Empire was just so busy, so focused on, just like you said, Hank, building their own little fiefs.
Yeah.
They lost their sense of their discipline as a military force.
Well, when they extinguished the Republic, they kept all the corrupt parts.
Yeah, they really
right?
did.
Like they literally kept the bureaucracy.
Yeah, no, that's true.
So makes sense they would still be rotting from within.
I just thought it was a very interesting comparison. Like, this looks an awful lot like Tigo. He's like gunning for his, like, can I be the governor?
Yeah.
He literally asks, "Can I be the governor?"
Right.
Sure, whatever. Just do it. Just get out of here.
Yeah.
And I mean, J-Hold was living like talk. You don't see very many portly officers, but J-Hold wasn't going to be running any marathons.
But you also get a sense too from that, now we're right off the rails, but like that they have wives and children and stuff, like stationed.
That is true.
Them.
That's true. J-Hold's case. Yeah, he had his family with him.
Mr. Man might have a Mrs. Man.
At the same time, though, like, the one common thread here is, like, I don't see any of these 3 guys as being high quality officer material, right? Like, how did we get here?
Yeah.
Like, the
galaxy is vast, so you've got to, literally, yes, you can be the governor. Like, I don't care. Like, we just report to your sector commander and get on with it.
Looking at it from a different perspective, does this mean that already at this point the Empire is starting to pay badly? So they're like,
I never considered
I need
that.
to pad my accounts, so I'm just going to start running local rackets.
I think
it's got to be perceived wealth, right? They're printing their money. It's Nazi Germany. They're just printing their brand new money. It's got its own value.
The one thing, that's another thing too. Did you notice that the standard Imperial credit, the gold bar that we saw in Andor, that seems to be the case. That's what we're seeing here. So they are already switched over.
Yeah.
I was going to say something, but I forgot now. Yeah, I don't know what it was. Oh, you were talking about pay.
Yes.
I don't think that I thought the pay was actually pretty good for these guys, but I think it's a case of like there are these remote worlds that
Where
nobody
green is too tempting.
really checks up on them. So they're
Oh,
kind
sure.
of left on their own to their own devices to kind of run it however they want.
Yeah.
Right. I guess as long as you don't mess up, to get
Oh.
someone to come down on you.
Or it seems like when any sort of rebellion act goes through, then all eyes get put on them. Like in
Well, absolutely.
J-hole,
Absolutely. Yeah. But as long as everything is running smooth or is perceived to be running smooth, nobody comes knocking.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's what I thought too. All right. Moving on. Where are we here? In the alleyway outside the tavern, the camera pans up on a large freighter passing overhead. And once again, thanks to the databank, we learn that this is a new class of ship and it is simply referred to as the Lao freighter. We don't have an actual classification for this ship, but we do get a handy dandy scale drawing of how big it compares to an LAAT gunship.
Really?
So yeah, this is a large craft.
It's a big shuttle.
can move some stuff.
Raider.
Yeah. Omega and Crosshair step out onto the street where the boy selling the kachu fruit is still sitting at his makeshift stand. With Batcher nowhere in sight, a worried Omega asks Crosshair, where is she? But it's the boy that answers, you're looking for that hound. When Omega asks him if he knows where she is, he folds his arms across his chest and answers, sure do, but it's going to cost her 10,000 credits. Crosshair, not amused with the boy, looms over him and sneers, I'm getting tired of this. The boy throws his hands up as he backs away. Okay, and reduces his fee to a mere 5 credits. Omega steps forward and she hands the boy some money. Holding up a credit like a pirate might a doubloon, the boy tells them that that Captain Man and his men took the hound to the cargo docks, and he points out the direction that they went. Then the boy runs off, abandoning his fruit stand, shouting, nice doing business with you. Omega starts to walk in the direction that the boy had pointed, but Crosshair stops her. Omega says, you heard what he said. But Crosshair points in the other direction, but the spaceport is that way. Waving his hand at her, he says that she needs to forget the hound because they have to get off the planet. In a scolding tone, Omega retorts, we would never have escaped without Batcher. I'm not leaving her. And she turns to walk away. Crosshair says she's making a mistake, but Omega turns back and she sternly says she's not abandoning her. Omega throws the satchel with the money at Crosshair, telling him to take the credits and just go because she'll find her own way. And then she runs off towards the docks. Crosshair turns toward the spaceport, taking a few steps, and stops and looks back at Omega. His eyes narrow in a scowl as he just stands there. Yeah, he was ready to go.
Again, he's presented with another opportunity. Do I
make a choice,
do I
man?
Cut and run, or
make
do
a choice.
I stick with somebody who never gave up on me?
It's that whole, and it even comes later on in the episode. There's a line about how far they've gotten. Well, you're in it together. You've gotten this far.
Yeah.
And this is infinitely better than what was before, even if you didn't think you were going to make it that far.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
he's just kind of along for the ride, but it's nice that he's at least he's showing that he's correcting his decision-making ability at any rate.
Yeah, he's making progress.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Baby steps.
Cut to an aerial shot of the Imperial docks. The sun has gone down, but several light standards around the perimeter of the compound provide adequate light. At the center of the yard sits the Lao freighter amidst rows of stacked crates. There's a lot of activity in the yard as some crates are moved while stormtroopers keep a watch over everything. Amongst the crates are a few civilian workers, and each of them carries an electrostaff. A large crate being lowered by a crane rattles as an unseen beast roars from within. As soon as the crate is on the ground, 2 workers rush to it and jam their staffs through the bars to subdue the creature inside. It's a very Jurassic Park moment.
Yes. I was kind of hoping it was going to be Moochie. Maybe a little bit
I thought
bigger.
too. Yeah, I was thinking Rancor.
Nice.
Rancor. At the same time, another worker walks past, pushing a repulsor cart stacked with 6 smaller animal crates. Now, all the crates in this whole scene, I didn't bother identifying them in every shot because they all say the same thing. They all say caution, volatile contents. Volatile. That's interesting.
Angry animals.
Yeah. Outside the compound, Omega sneaks up and she looks through the fence. Looking both ways, she sees the coast is clear and begins climbing a stack of crates so she can hop over. But then Crosshair is there, and he plunks the satchel down on one of the crates to get Omega's attention. Surprised to see him, Omega is surprised to see him, but even more surprised when he climbs up on the crate with her and says, "Fine, we'll do it your way, but my skills are being wasted." Straight-faced, she replies, "Noted."
It's wicked.
Noted. It's almost like a disgruntled employee talking to the boss.
Yeah.
Noted. Then Crosshair nods to her, and he cups his hands together for Omega to stand on them so he can boost her over the fence. Once she's on the other side, he hands Omega the satchel through the fence and then climbs over himself. Then the two of them make their way between two rows of crates where they hunker down to avoid a pair of passing stormtroopers. Making their way further inside the compound, they watch as another worker lifts one of the smaller animal crates off of the repulsor cart and onto another stack of containers. Peering out from behind some of the crates, Omega spots Batcher pacing around inside one of the large crates. Omega points out to Crosshair where she is, and it's like Batcher can see them as she peers out from between the bars of her crate. Excuse me.
Mile and a hound.
Omega, again, anthropomorphized a little bit. Omega watches the dockmaster standing behind his console. He presses a button on the console in front of him, and several of the green indicators on the smaller animal crates all turn red, signaling that they are now locked and secure. Then the dockmaster leaves his station. A nearby animal shrieks, and Crosshair reacts by training his weapon towards the sound. Omega suggests that they should free the other animals as well, but he tells her, "Don't push it." With the dockmaster gone, the two clones make their way between the rows of crates, emerging beside Batcher's kennel. But at the sound of Captain Man's voice, they stop dead in their tracks. "I thought you'd come searching for your mutt." Crosshair levels his blaster at the captain. The portly officer, still accompanied by his stormtroopers, steps into the open, telling them that Lao has a very strict pet policy. Dock workers with their electrostaffs flank Omega and Crosshair while Batcher peers out from the kennel. Crosshair surveys their surroundings, and now the stormtrooper in the guard tower is also focused on them, so he keeps his blaster trained on the captain. Man flips a credit in the air, and after catching it, he says that not having a license means a hefty fine. When Omega asks how much this time, Man just tells her to give him back all of his money because the credits won't do them any good when Dr. Hemlock shows up. Omega flashes a look at Crosshair, who is still unflinching. Continuing, Man tells them that he pieced it together when he was alerted to the crashed shuttle. Nothing gets by him because he runs this town. Drawing his blaster, he demands that Omega hand over the credits and surrender. So that means she had whatever she won from the Trandoshan plus like 20,000 that she won just from him alone.
Yeah.
Minus the first 10 grand, but still,
she already
yeah.
got 10 back.
Oh yeah.
And she said she had 35.
She had 35.
left.
So whatever
So
she
she
won from the Trandoshan
25
plus.
off the Trandoshan.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm guessing the whole it's a distraction was just a ploy. Like, doesn't matter if I win or lose.
Oh,
I'm gonna get you in the end.
Yeah. I mean, I just love how he's playing both sides of it. Like he's got the whole like, he takes a cut off the bar.
Yep.
The stormtroopers are running a protection racket, and you piss me off, I'll just
I'll fine you for whatever.
I'll use my
it's
authority.
Just like when they appoint a magistrate, they probably just like, oh, you're this, especially in an area that like seems like it's pretty underworldy style kind of planet here on Lao. So maybe this guy's like a local crime boss, and it would be nothing for the Empire to give him a uniform and say maintain control.
Yeah.
Especially if it's remote. So you can sort of picture that.
Yeah, absolutely. That he was just a local that just happened to be already here.
Yeah, and he has some power. So if people are already listening, et cetera, or whatever, you know what I mean? Like,
well, they do refer to him as a captain, and I mean, if he's in the military hierarchy, that's not exactly a super high rank.
No, and it would it could be just like honorary too, just like the magistrate kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little more tech here for a second because that I like that stuff. We're looking at Man's blaster. It is the RK3 Now, it first made its first appearance as an unnamed pistol back in season 1 of Star Wars Rebels. The pistol was then rendered for the 2017 video game Star Wars Battlefront 2, and it was given the designation of RK3. And it finally made its live-action debut in Part 6 of Ahsoka, where it was the sidearm of Grand Admiral Thrawn, although he never did draw it. Both of his Rebels and his live-action Ahsoka action figures do come with the blaster as an accessory. And, of course, you can see that the Rebels version mimics the animated version, and the live-action has gotten a gentle retooling.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, cool stuff.
Nice.
Now, all the stormtroopers level their blasters at the 2 clones, and the camera focuses in on the satchel for a moment before cutting to Omega's face. All right, she says with a sigh as she looks back at Crosshair, and then she tosses the bag between her and Captain Man. Man smirks at what he sees as a victory. Then Omega says to Crosshair, "Let's try things your way." Ready to get to business, Crosshair sneers. Finally. Omega dashes toward the Dockmaster station as Crosshair opens fire. It looks as though he misses Captain Man, who ducks the shot, but one of the stormtroopers behind him takes it in the chest. Captain Man and the rest of the troopers begin returning fire, while the electro-staff-wielding dock workers try to gain better positions and stay out of the line of fire. Crosshair ducks in behind the Dockmaster station, where Omega is already working the controls. A status display indicates that all the cages are being unlocked, and all at once the animal cages, including Batchers, burst open and unleash a stampede of creatures, including several Nuna, the chicken of Star Wars, an entire herd of Void Striders, and dozens of birds. Now, Nuna have become commonplace in Star Wars since their debut back in The Phantom Menace. And if you don't remember what Void Striders are, they were introduced in the Season 5 Clone Wars episode, A Sunny Day in the Void, where General Gascon and his droid unit D-Squad crash land on a desolate planet. Now, we get a new species of bird. It'd be easy to go, oh, they're convor, but they are not. We get a new species of bird referred to simply as the Lao bird that just looks like some kind of parrot.
Now, do we think that the Empire, or in this case here, were they like, is it some sort of exotic animal trade? Like another racket going on?
I feel
here?
like this might be an extension of some of the other experiments that the Empire is doing, because there's talk about having need of
exotic material.
Well, let's go back to last week when you thought maybe the Zillow Beast was in that.
Yes.
So, I mean, there would be a need.
That makes sense, yeah.
For other animals if they're you know,
eating more subjects,
making genetic soup, as it were, right?
True.
Well, the Void Striders plow through some of the stormtroopers, knocking them down, while Captain Man returns fire from behind a crate, and he calls out for reinforcements on his comlink. As Man continues to fire, Batcher leaps on top of him, knocking him flat, and then runs off. One of the lucky stormtroopers that managed to avoid the stampede is gunned down by Crosshair, and he falls near the unconscious captain. The trooper in the guard tower fires at the clone position, but his shot falls short, and it hits the Dockmaster station instead. Crosshair ducks down to talk to Omega, who's now joined by Batcher. He tells her to take the Hound and power up the freighter while he handles the rest of the situation. He fires a blast at the guard tower, knocking up the spotlight, forcing the stormtrooper to duck for cover. And Crosshair quickly dashes out from the Dockmaster station, and he grabs the leather satchel on the way. He fires a blast. Oh, sorry, I just read that, didn't I? Coming around, Captain Man, still in the middle of the stampede, reaches out for his blaster just a short distance away, but a fleeing Nuna knocks it away. Pulling up at one of the larger crates, Crosshair uses the door for cover as the trooper in the guard tower is now back up, and the two of them exchange fire again. Omega and Batcher dash up the freighter ramp, and they head directly for the cockpit. She leaps into the pilot's seat, and she fires up the engines. Outside, Captain Man, who's back on his feet and behind some cover, sees the engines start to fire, and he shouts into the comlink, "They're stealing the cargo ship!" The stormtrooper in the guard tower stops firing, and he looks up at the ship for a moment, but then is clipped by a blaster bolt in the shoulder from Crosshair. With the threat of enemy fire eliminated, at least for the moment, Crosshair makes a run for the freighter. While at the same time, Captain Man makes a break to recover his pistol, unaware that the doors on the container just behind him are about to burst open from whatever might be pushing against them inside. You see the locking pin just vibrating.
Come on, Rancor. Come
Yeah.
on, Rancor.
I really felt the same thing.
Yeah.
Recovering his weapon, he levels it at Crosshair's back and unleashes a classic display of Imperial accuracy by missing the target that is no more than 25 feet away from him.
Nice.
Still, it's enough to force Crosshair back into cover, stopping his retreat to the cargo ship. Finally, the locking pin on the container door falls out, and the doors slowly swing open. With a fearful expression on his face, Captain Man turns to face whatever might be inside. Seeing something move around inside the crate, he panics and tries to bolt. But after just a few steps, he's tripped up and grabbed by massive tentacles that drag him back inside. Grasping for whatever he can get a hold of, the Imperial officer grabs at the container doors, but the creature is too strong, and that only serves to close the doors. Outside, Crosshair watches as the container shudders while Captain Man lets out a blood-curdling scream, no doubt meeting a horrific end. Crosshair runs to the freighter's boarding ramp, pausing only to return fire at the newly arriving reinforcements. It's a sizable force, too, and there's no time to waste, so he dashes on board and heads to the cockpit. He begins to tell Omega, "Let's," but she's already completing his sentence. "Get out of here? Yeah, I'm on it." Batcher, having warmed up to the older clone, licks his face while Crosshair says, "Let's hope your takeoffs are better than your landings." All right, I tried to get the audio for this and I couldn't match it. So it's pure speculation here when I say that. Does anybody else think that might be a Rathtar?
I think it's a Rathtar.
So.
Yep.
I don't, I mean, we've
Highly
dealt with
Force
tentacled,
Awakens, right?
with the tentacled monster thing seems to be a common theme in this stuff. Last week we had tentacled plants.
Yeah, it was the swamp version.
Right. But I think possibly Rathtar.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Same color, like palette. And
Yeah, very, very similar. As
we're
the ship
hauling Rathars.
As the ship lifts off, the reinforcements pour into the compound and start firing at it indiscriminately. But their blasts aren't very effective, and the ship slowly rises under repulsor lift. As the ship turns away from the guard tower and begins to transition to its main engines, the lone trooper that had been trading blaster fire with Crosshair stupidly stands up, taking the full brunt of the engine's thrust. You can hear the trooper's armor begin to sizzle before he's knocked flying clean off the tower, unlikely to get back up this time.
Shame, because he looks awesome.
The freighter gains speed as the landing struts retract, and we cut to space where it flies clear of the planet Lao, making the jump to hyperspace.
So this isn't exactly good for the TK troopers.
What do you mean?
Like twice in 2 days, they've had like whole squads get outmatched by one clone and a little
One
kid.
person in it. Yeah,
And both times they stole an Imperial ship.
that's so true. From the most secret facility in the
Yeah.
Empire.
And then from like a fortified spaceport under Imperial control.
There was a ton of troopers inside the port too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Keystone Cops.
Yeah, really. Well, later on, scores of stormtroopers pour over the crash site. One of them gives a report to Commander Scorch, who tells Dr. Hemlock that the girl in CT-9904 were, in fact, in the spaceport. Hemlock questions were. Scorch tells him that they escaped on a cargo freighter, and the doctor orders him to track the ship and notify all of their operatives because he wants Omega found. This is the part I said I wanted to get back to where I spoke errantly last week. When I hear the word operative, like when a guy in the military says operative, he doesn't say troop. He doesn't say forces.
Bounty hunters.
Well, this is where I kind of go back to that whole thing about these clone assassin guys. We think that's what they were doing, trying to re-educate Crosshair.
Yeah.
And I kind of went on that sort of tangent last week where I think maybe this new guy that we're seeing is still tech. Errantly last week, I had said that the batch had gone back. We saw the goggles and they had gone back to look for the body.
Yeah.
But no, that's not what happened. It's Hemlock that gives them the goggles back.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all they found.
Season finale.
Yeah. I'd forgotten that.
Yeah.
Which just lends more credibility that they've
They
got
found
tech
the-
and they've re-educated him.
Yeah.
And that assassin may
Because
in
we
fact
know
be.
this is not the first assassin. The first one's dead.
No. That's
Or-
right.
So that means there's more of them.
So when
I
I
mean,
hear
he could also be undead too.
Yeah.
there is every possibility, but when I hear operative, I think of these guys. They don't conform to any sort of military uniform, at least not one that we're familiar with in the Empire.
Yeah. And Empire Strikes Back, they're not objected to, sourcing
Hiring bounty hunters. Yeah,
which
exactly.
could bring Cad Bane, like we saw in the trailer, back in.
Looks a little like Halo.
Kind of.
A little bit.
I would have accepted even if he had said agents, because then they could go they could pull from the ISB, and
Yeah.
we know how much pull the ISB has.
Yeah.
But I feel like we are on a collision course to be reunited with tech in a not so friendly way.
Hmm.
Yeah. It doesn't say troops or agents like the ISB. It says operatives. Okay, there we go. The stolen freighter barrels through hyperspace with Omega at the controls. Crosshair and Batcher enter the cockpit, and the older clone tells his younger sibling that the Empire will be tracking the ship, and they need to ditch it. Omega says that they will, because they're headed to a remote location where she's sent a coded transmission for Hunter and Wrecker to meet them. Batcher whimpers a little bit and lies down on the floor. It's almost as if she can pick up on the clone's emotions, because no sooner does she lay down than Crosshair steps forward, and in the most tender tone that we've ever heard him use, he says, "It's been months, and you don't know if they're still alive." Turning in her seat, Omega locks eyes with him, answering, "They'll be there," before turning her attention back to the ship's controls. Never heard Crosshair speak that way before.
No.
Mm-mm.
I thought it
But
was
again, he's coming from a realistic point. Like, they've been hunting clones.
Yeah, but normally his realism comes with a hiss, or there's a tone there that's always pragmatic. This is like how an adult would deliver sensitive news to a child.
Yeah.
Hmm.
At least it felt that way to me.
More progress. on
Yeah,
his-
no,
on his part,
absolutely.
right?
That was a huge turning moment for me. Later on, the ship drops out of hyperspace between two red planets and flies towards a dull gray cratered moon, not unlike our own. As the freighter descends towards the windswept, barren landscape, another craft can be seen sitting in a valley, and it appears that it is an Omicron-class attack shuttle. The camera cuts to just behind the shuttle, looking back at the approaching freighter. Its rear gun turret in the foreground, while the freighter floats across the backdrop of the nearest planet that looks an awful lot like a spot on someone's retina. Recognizing the ship as the Havoc Marauder, Omega stands up, taking in its familiar silhouette. The ship's boarding ramp drops, and Omega runs out, her face beaming with a smile. She stares at the open ramp on the Marauder just a few meters away. And if this isn't the coolest thing ever, then I don't know what is. This moon is exactly the same moon that we went to back in season 1, where we met young Harrison Dula.
Nice.
Yeah, this moon is only referred to as the nearest, Ryloth's nearest moon. It's not really named, but it is clearly evident from the shot composition that this is the same place.
Mm.
And I would go a step further, looking at some of the rocks in the foreground.
Looks like it's the same
The
landing
same
zone.
location.
Yeah.
The freighter just landed further, like closer towards us.
Yep.
I feel like there's a good
I would
chance
buy
this
that.
is the same place. Yeah. I composited that image together of the two of them because there's a focus shift. Like neither one of them are in focus together at the same time.
Mm.
So I just screen capped it twice and then cut it in half
There you go.
just to make it work. All right. And then Wrecker steps into view. He throws his arms up, exclaiming, "Now there's a sight." The two of them run to each other, and Wrecker gathers her up in his arms like a doll, spinning her around, laughing. "I wasn't even sure your message was real." And then the two share a long, tearful embrace. Setting Omega down, Wrecker kneels in front of her, saying, "We crossed the galaxy 4 times looking for you." Then Hunter appears at the top of the ramp, correcting him. 5, he says. Cut to a close-up of Hunter as he continues, "But you found us." Omega runs to Hunter as he kneels down, and they hug while Omega's theme crescendos, making every Bad Batch fan with a heart cry, including me, twice. Yes, I cried again writing the notes, even though I knew it was coming. It was that emotional for me. Hunter says, "We missed you, kid. We never stopped looking." Omega pulls back, wiping a tear away, while Hunter looks away and thinks for a moment. Looking back at her, he asks, But how did you escape? With a soft smile, she tells him, I had help. Hunter gazes behind her and he stands up while Omega turns to face the freighter, and the three of them watch as Crosshair descends the boarding ramp. The air is thick and silent as Crosshair's theme builds ominously. Omega looks at Hunter and Wrecker standing there emotionless, staring at their wayward brother. Then Crosshair reaches the bottom of the freighter's ramp, and Omega takes a step towards Wrecker while the four of them stand there staring uneasily at one another. And in the silence, Wrecker furrows his brow, and we cut to black. I really, 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 really liked this episode. Like a lot.
Yep.
I can't put my finger on exactly what it was about it. I know last week I said, just, let's go back to Adventure of the Week and then, move the bigger plot along the following week. But this worked really well for me.
Yeah,
I think our next one is going to open right at this moment. Because
Batcher
is
I don't know how
bounding down the ramp and is going to break all the tension.
Oh, that's a good thought. I like that.
And like it'll knock Crosshair right out of the way too.
Well, instantly like Wrecker, right?
Yeah.
Like they'll have this thing for sure.
Yeah.
What do you think of the overarching stuff? Where do you think we're building towards?
I really think that it's probably a good bet that we're going to swap internal villains, especially with the operative, and now Crosshair's back on board,
and Tech is on the outs.
Yeah, so it makes sense. Maybe we're going to swap villains. We're a third of the way through, give or take, almost.
We're four episodes in,
so close to a third.
Yeah,
and we haven't touched some of the main characters yet.
Yeah,
it's odd.
That is true. That is true. We're still waiting to
because is Echo an addendum?
Yeah, they're going to connect. Presumably, they're going to connect with Rex and Echo at some point.
Well, they were supposed to wait 2 days, but Hunter said,
no.
Yeah, we're not waiting. I
really did think, and not that I didn't really like Tech, like I really, really, really like Tech, but I thought ostensibly, not emotionally or anything, but ostensibly, he and Echo are the same character.
Oh yeah, you've said that before too,
right? So you make sense to get rid of one of them, but then to not then focus on Echo as part of the group. But maybe there's plans for Echo. I don't know. It just seems like,
part of me, and I think it's because of my love for
I don't think we're going to waste any time. That's what I mean. I don't know how many filler episodes we're going to get, with this being the end game.
I would be hard pressed to think that, I don't even like necessarily the word filler episode because I feel like those are,
no, I think we're
wasteful.
Like a little bottle episode, character building episode. I think we built all the character. I think like now it's like it's the third act. It's going to play out. All that character building is happening.
Like last season, the video game episode, the racing episode, you could call filler. It was fun as hell. But I don't think we're going to get another episode like, we're not going to get another racing episode or anything like that.
No.
The next one might just be like our little moment to breathe before the entire empire
comes
crashing down.
Maybe. I have a feeling, and this is, I know everybody loves a good redemption arc in Star Wars, but and given the amount of time, and I kind of feel like this is maybe why we spent so much time with Tech last season, where they really wanted us to feel for him. So one, the turn is tragic.
Yeah.
The turn is very tragic, but the turn back will be so much more rewarding. We speculated that he's like a guy on the spectrum.
Yes.
I think on some level that may in fact protect him. His brain doesn't work the same way as anybody else. And so, maybe his programming, his reconditioning isn't complete. And he's just going along with it until the right moment where he can go, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like that to me is a possibility. Or more than likely, it'll come down to, he's got them at gunpoint or something and it'll be Omega. But Crosshair, it's us. Remember? Oh, it could be Fee. Yeah, Fee, the romantic.
And she'll be like, come on, brown eyes.
Yeah.
And then it'll just be like, turn, fire.
A combination of all of those things that will get through to him, and he'll kind of have the moment where he's like, I remember. At least that's what I want to happen. So
it's possible.
Let me just project that out there into the world.
Because, like, really, you know,
He
don't
could
throw.
also just be dead.
Well,
He could also just be dead. And that, you know what? That's not off the table either. I
No.
don't want to get too far ahead. As much as I want it to be a certain way, and I think we're going in a certain way, I can't rule out that he's not legitimately, he's dead.
Yeah.
He may be dead.
Well, it goes back. How honest is Hemlock? Not.
How honest are the writers? Like, if you bring Tech
Yeah.
back, does that cheapen his sacrifice at the end of the last season?
I mean,
You don't think so?
plus it's a kid show, so
Well, there is that.
the stakes are, like you can tell big stories with relatively low stakes this way. It's one of the beautiful things about these stories with the like background characters or tertiary characters. You can tell big stories with no stakes. Like, I mean, we get attached to them emotionally, but like it's not going to change the Darth Vader's fall. Nothing about this is going to change that at all.
No,
It's just it's fun to watch. Kind of thing. It's world building.
Yeah.
With the revelation that Omega is the template, she is, or at least part of the process. Like, she could take the non-degraded M count transfer. What does that say about the cloners themselves? We had theorized, or at least we had bounced around, like, did the cloners themselves have an agenda on these cloning projects? Because it kind of sounds at this point like maybe they did.
Yeah. Like, at some point, if you build somebody an army, you got to defend yourself against whatever they can throw back at you.
They talk about early, like I think it's even the first Bad Batch episode, the contingency plan. They built their own contingency plan.
And do we ever discover what that is?
Not really, but this might be it. At the same time, there was a point where they trusted the Jedi, and so maybe they could have been working on this, at face value.
Does that add another stain to the chapter of the Jedi Order? Did Master Sifo Dyas or whoever commission the cloners to start working on building force sensitive clones so that they could create more Jedi? Like, that seems kind of twisted, but I wouldn't take that off the table either. Given the arrogance of the Order at the end anyway.
Yeah.
I thought it was Darth Tyrannus.
Oh, yeah, there is.
It was Dooku posing as Sifo Dyas.
He's the one that went into the archive and erased Camino.
Right. Were the cloners independently, without direction, already working on this technology on their own for their own purposes?
Probably.
Maybe. But I would think, like, you get approached by Force users and they say, make us an army. Then you're like, perhaps we should come up with a way to deal.
We should figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
Defend against that.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So that makes kind of sense, especially for, cloners.
I feel sorry for Nala Se, and I guess ostensibly Lama Su, who just walked off camera at the end of the last season, and we just never saw him again.
Yeah.
Is he imprisoned somewhere?
Or dead.
Once
you outlive your usefulness, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't think that. Yeah.
I feel that one of the biggest tragedies of the show is the fate of the Kaminoan species.
Yeah.
Not their technology, but them as a species. Nobody wants genocide.
Pushed to the brink of extinction already, right?
Right. And I mean, cloning was their thing. They actually worked on themselves. Yeah. They cloned themselves and genetically manipulated themselves to adapt to the environment.
The water world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We've got a lot more to cover here on the show. Definitely looking forward to, my God, what's happening next week? Mm-hmm. Is it a single drop next week?
Yes, it
It
is.
is a single drop. Okay, so that'll be same old. We'll be back next week at 6. Anything else you guys want to talk about before we wrap it up for the night?
No, it's a good one. I mean, best episode ever. It keeps getting just.
It does.
It does. Yeah. As long as they keep trumping themselves, man, I'm having a great time.
Me too. And we will continue to keep the ball rolling next week. And check out the episode guides if you haven't already. You can go starwars.com/databank. When you get to the databank, just type in the episode title and you'll get all of the related stuff for each week's episode. So it's an invaluable resource. I highly encourage you to check it out. I will be adding it to my resource list for writing the episodes to make it a regular thing now.
Might as well use it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, man. That's it for me, guys.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, don't forget next week, same batch time, same batch channel.
Wicked.
And as always, we will be back on Tuesday night for Random Fandom. So come check that out. We got a bunch of stuff to talk about this week. We got one thing I want to talk about, which isn't really entertainment related, but I sent it to you earlier. We'll talk about it in a minute here.
Mhm.
Anyway, whatever your thing is, whether it's video games or whatever, movies, TVs, whatever, fan on, because we're all fans of something.
Yeah.
And for Fandom Power, my name is Wes.
I'm Andy.
I'm Hank.
And we will see you on the next one. And bye for now. Oh, that's right. We got
We got an outro.
an outro this week. Let's actually
Ooh.
use that. Let's
Fancy.
use that one. There it is.